say that I was working at the Alpine Club in 1961 to 65, right? And that we probably met John in 64 or 65. I'm not sure exactly when it was. Am I starting now?
Stop. That was good.
Okay.
Say his last name.
John Harlan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so let's start. My name is
Okay.
full name, and then go on just what you were doing.
Okay.
Okay.
So my name is Jeanne Bergen, and I'm presently living in the easternmost corridor of New York State, right on the Massachusetts line, where I've now lived for almost, 40 or 50 years. Back in 1961, I was hired to be the administrative secretary at the American Alpine Club. And my husband and I moved there in the fall of 1961 to New York, to the wonderful old firehouse where the AAC was housed at that time. And being there and being resident there, we met all the climbers who were doing great things at that time. They all came through. Many of them slept on our floor, and John Harlan was one of those. We met John. I can't say we knew him well, but we connected. And somehow the plan evolved out of this meeting that when I resigned my job at the Alpine Club, which happened in the summer of '65, that we would go to Lausanne and teach at the American school there along with John and Marilyn. Now, I'm not sure if John was actually teaching there, but Marilyn was. So, our desire was just to go and climb and ski for the rest of our lives. So I gave my resignation to the Alpine Club, and we were all packed up, and we had booked our passage on a freighter to Genoa for the big move to Lausanne. And about maybe 10 days before we were due to leave, we were all packed up, our furniture was in storage, all of this. We got a cablegram, which is what you got in those days, not an email, but a cablegram, from the school in Lausanne telling us that their headmaster had been arrested for embezzlement, and the school didn't have any money. And we were very welcome to come on anyway, but they couldn't pay us anything. So that was the end of that dream, and we never made it to Lausanne. He sat there on our sofa and we talked about Lausanne and climbing. Okay, so I'll just add in a couple of names.
Well, why don't you start over and tell the story of how you almost got there. Start with your name again.
Right.
Just do what you did before, and we'll just do it one more time. Let me get in on you and make sure that we're focused up.
So was I basically okay as far as where I was looking and all?
Yeah,
I looked down
that was
a bit.
perfect. Just look, you just sort of look. Go.
Say now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Jeanne Bergen, and I'm presently living in New York State, right at the very eastern edge on the Massachusetts line, where I've lived since around 1965. Now that date is important, as you'll see in a minute. In 1961, I was interviewed and hired to be the administrative secretary at the American Alpine Club in New York City, at its old address at 113 East 90th Street. So in the fall of 1961, my then husband and I moved into the quarters at the Alpine Club and proceeded to enjoy the library, meeting all the famous climbers of the world who came through. Many of them slept on our floor. Walter Bonatti sat on my sofa. We climbed with many of the people who came through. Leighton Core, I do remember going to Ragged Mountain in Connecticut, and Leighton, with a gleam in his eye, shot up this climb, which to me looked impossible. I don't even remember what it was rated, probably 5. It was huge. So one of the people who came through the Alpine Club, whom we met and connected with, was John Harlan. It was probably 64 or 65, either the fall of 64 or the spring of 65. And so we plotted then that as soon as I had resigned my job at the Alpine Club, which I was about to do, I'd been there for 3 years then, we would go to Lausanne and join John and Marilyn and teach at the school, the American school in Lausanne. So all was set, and we were really thrilled at the prospect. All we wanted to do was climb or ski for the rest of our lives, and we packed everything up, furniture went in storage, all of that, and probably about 10 days before we were supposed to leave, and we had booked our passage on a freighter to Genoa. About 10 days before we were supposed to sail, we got a cablegram from the school. In those days you got a cablegram and not an email, telling us that the school's headmaster had been arrested for embezzlement, and the school was penniless. They had no money. They couldn't pay us. We were welcome to come if we wanted to, but they couldn't pay us anything. So unfortunately, we did not have huge financial resources, and so that was that for us. That dream just had to die a quiet death. We never got to Lausanne.
Was it the winter or spring of '66, I believe?
66. Well, at that point, I just don't know. You see, I can't remember. I mean, I remember, actually far more strongly when Dan Duty and Craig Merrihew were killed ice climbing in Huntington Ravine. And we were skiing in Vermont, and Brown came out and said, bad news. He just heard it on the radio, where we were staying. We might have even been staying with the Coveneys, I don't know. We often stayed with Lawrence and when we went skiing.
Give me an idea of what the Alpine Club was like in those days. Sort of,
You mean physically or
well, yeah,
organizationally?
Both. Like, describe that old clubhouse a little bit. That I used to love going there.
Oh, it was great.
When I was younger.
Sure. Take this back off. So, you're ready for me to start talking?
Yeah.
Sorry. No, it was a real experience to be living there at the Alpine Club. It was in an old firehouse, so on East 90th Street between Lexington. So great area, German area, Yorkville, wonderful German restaurants, and Cheese Unlimited was down the road. So you walked in, and the downstairs, as I said, was the old firehouse where the fire trucks lived. And that was the area that we used for public gatherings, slideshows, and the refreshments that followed, that kind of thing, lectures. And then the second floor was the library, which was the library and the office. And of course, I just have been visiting the new library, the new setup of the library in Golden. So it was much less spacious, of course, but those incredible paintings, the Belmore Browns, the books, the journals, it was all there, and we really made use of it. I mean, my husband spent hours and hours and hours in that library. The third floor was 2 apartments, one for the caretaker and one for the secretary, and a lovely apartment, really beautiful. So we had to walk down one flight of stairs, one half flight of stairs to get to the library. It was an ideal situation, really. Very, very enjoyable. It's one of the highlights of my life, I think, living there. Okay? What, you wanted to come this way?
Let's just try that again. Just go back to where you were and just come walking towards the camera, no hesitation, and just walk off to this side of it.
To this side?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just start still, watch my arm, and then come. Okay.